Hello friends, welcome to my channel Ponvaira Citadel. In continuation to my last video on communication, in this video we are going to discuss about the rest of the same unit, communication. We'll be discussing about context in communication and about barriers to effective communication and about mass media and society, and also we'll be discussing about some important terms related to communication and also about the skills necessary for effective communication. Stay tuned. Context in communication. The word context refers to the environment in which the communication is taking place. It is very important in the sense that if the receiver understands the context, then it is more likely that he understands the message correctly. If the receiver does not get the context correct, it is very unlikely that he interprets the message correctly. The physical context refers to the actual physical location where the communication is taking place. We know pretty well that communication in a fish market will be entirely different from communication in a conference hall. By knowing the context, we can interpret the conversation or any kind of communication correctly, even if there is a lot of noise or disturbances in the channel of communication. Now, the second, social context, refers to the social setting in which communication occurs. Communication may occur in an office between an employer and employee, and that type of communication will be different from the one between a consumer and a sales representative. And psychological context refers to the moods and the emotion of the sender and the receiver. You know pretty well how your father will react to a son who gets above 90% in the exam, and what will be his communication like with the same boy if he fails in the exam. So it will be entirely different. The words, the tone, the body language, everything will be different. And what is temporal context? The word temporal always refers to the time. And conversation differs in respect to what time of the day it is taking place, whether it takes place in the day or in the night. There will always be differences. And historical context refers to the past experiences. Suppose there is always enmity between two countries. I don't want to name the countries. Then you can very well imagine the way in which communication will take place between the leaders of these countries. Cultural context refers to the impact of the culture, the impact that the culture has on the way of communication, interpretation of values, interpretation of beliefs, symbols, ethics, all will depend on the cultural background of the sender or the receiver. Let me tell you an humorous anecdote that highlights how cultural context can dramatically affect communication. Once, a British executive was visiting United States for a business meeting. As the meeting was progressing, the American colleagues frequently responded to the British executive's points with "that is interesting, that is interesting." So the British executive took this as a positive affirmation that his ideas were compelling and well received. Well, after the meeting, the British executive was surprised to find that none of his suggestions were implemented. He approached one of the American colleagues to ask him what went wrong. The American laughed and explained, "Oh, when we say that is interesting, it often means we are trying to be polite about something that we don't agree or we don't find practical." So to this, the British executive chuckled and replied, "Oh, in UK we might say that is quite good," which could mean anything from mediocre to horrible. So imagine in UK if you say that is quite good, It is just, it's okay, okay. From mediocre to horrible. So in order to be polite, they use them. So this anecdote illustrates how different cultural contexts can lead to misunderstandings in communication, even when everyone is speaking the same language. Well, now we will look into what are the barriers to effective communication. So what are barriers? Barriers are some obstacles to effective communication, and they lead to the information or the message shared being misinterpreted or misunderstood. So that is what barrier is, an obstacle. And you can very well imagine the consequences with misinterpreted or misunderstood communication. And there are different categories of barriers which we are going to see one by one now. As I have told you, there are different types of barriers to communication. What are they? First, physical barriers. Physical barriers, they refer to the many environmental factors. It may be the noise, the unwanted noise in the location, the audibility of the message. The message may not be audible in the verbal communication, or illegible handwriting in the case of written communication. All these are physical barriers. And sometimes the pronunciation of similar words may lead to confusion. For example, I don't know whether you have seen the movie Hi Nana in the Netflix. Hi Nana is a movie where a child is diagnosed with a disease called cystic fibrosis. Cystic, C-Y-S-T-I-C, cystic fibrosis. Fibrosis. So this is the name of a disease. A child of 6 years old is diagnosed with this disease. It is a very fatal disease. And when the doctors and the parents were discussing about the cystic fibrosis, the girl happened to overhear the conversation, the communication. And she being a small child, she doesn't know cystic fibrosis. She misunderstood it as 65 roses. 65 roses. I think you all would have seen the movie. I don't know. So this is an example for a physical barrier, because the confusion in the sound of the words. It is cystic. So the girl misunderstood as 65. Fibrosis, roses, 65 roses. So she was telling to her friends and other, I am having 65 roses in my body. Even though it sounds funny or humorous, but it was a pathetic situation for the girl to suffer from such a dreadful disease. So this is a very good example for barrier in communication because of the similar sounding words. The communicator, the receiver may get confused in the sounds of the words, and especially in this case, this girl being a very small child, not exposed to the names of the diseases, she thinks she has got 65 roses in her. And now the next type of barrier is social barrier, where again we discussed about the social status of the people involved in the communication. This may refer to social status, or it may refer to gender, or it may refer to age, because of the communication is happening between the people of different ages. There is always a chance to misunderstand the communication, and the income groups, social class, position. So all may act as a barrier because you feel embarrassed to talk to a person of high position, or feel embarrassed to talk to a position to a person of low position in the society. So things may happen like that, you know. So you don't communicate properly, you don't listen properly, or your body language will be different, which will be misunderstood. So all these act as social barriers. And cultural barriers, I told you, and I gave you an excellent example of a British executive who misunderstands the words. It is interesting. So that is a cultural barrier. That's a very good example of a cultural barrier. And then comes the semantic. Semantic means meaning. The word semantic refers to meaning. So sometimes the meaning can be literal or denotative. So or it may be connotative meaning. See, the literal meaning is the direct meaning, what is said there. And figurative meaning is something which is different. See, I'll give you an example. There was a cartoon in a picture where Mother Teresa was seen um, beating the children from the slum areas, beating them with all kinds of weapons. And the caption was, Mother Teresa is fighting against the poverty of the children. See here the figurative meaning, the connotative meaning is that she is fighting against the poverty. She is not fighting against the children, but the cartoon was she was beating the children, poor children, with all kinds of weapons like sticks and you know, wooden this thing, rods. So this is what happens when you take the meaning literally, but this is a figurative meaning. So you have to know whether in what context that words are said. So there are semantic barriers, wrong understanding in the meaning of the words. And then comes the literal, technical barriers. You know, the technical barriers refers to the technical issues like the mic. There may be some problem with the mic in the case of spoken communication, or the problem may be with the speakers or mobile network connection problems, audio problem, video problem, etc. It may involve the hardware or the software, or it may involve the both. All this refers to technical barriers. They act as barriers and they spoil the communication. And organizational behaviors refers to the rules and the policies of any organization. The hierarchical structures may also contribute to the misinterpretations. Hierarchical structure refers to the superiors, the boss, and the subordinates, employees. So there is always barriers. These subordinates cannot, or they are not supposed to talk to the superior boss without going through the immediate one. You know, there are certain rules and policies said and not said, followed, and which lead to miscommunication. Or sometimes the message get distorted or changed and not understood properly. And then comes the physiological barriers. Physiological barriers refers to the physiology, means the functioning of the body. So if some part of the body is not functioning properly, like deafness or dumbness or stammering or MR, mental retardedness, all this may result in the message not being delivered correctly or not being understood correctly. And these are all physiological barriers. And psychological, see the word, they may sound alike, physiology, and this is psychology. Psychological communication implies communication is obstructed due to emotions, due to attitude, due to interest or lack of interest, or due to over interest, or due to attention, lack of attention, etc. So, when you are very much interested, you listen keenly and you don't miss anything. But at the same time, if you are not interested, you don't listen properly and you don't even listen fully. And this may lead to the message not being conveyed fully or correctly. And you know the consequences. And under emotional or psychological barriers, you have this perception and attitudes. They play a very big role in impacting the communication, because your emotions affect the way you look at things, perception. See, some people may look at a water, I mean the glass of water which is half filled. If you have water in a glass, the water is half of the glass. Some people look at it and they say, oh look, I have enough water, it is half filled with water, it's more than. But some people look at it and say it is half empty. Both are correct. It is half empty, half full. But the positive minded people, they look at the positive aspect, that is half full of water is there. But the negative minded people, they will say it is half empty. So it is perception varies. And attitude. Some people have a good attitude to listen to, even to poor people or the inferior people or the people of subordinate category, and they listen with empathy, they listen with the attention, they listen with care. But others, some people may not have that good attitude. They will not listen to their inferior. They will listen only to their superior, their boss, and they are not ready to receive anything from the inferior people. Inferior in the sense, inferior in the rank. All this affects the communication. And the word sender-oriented barriers refers to all the obstacles that occur on the side of the sender of the communication, like the way the medium he chooses, the medium, maybe the language or the channel, the symbols he uses, or the sign, the mood, the emotion the sender uses may may affect the communication. And the receiver oriented barriers is on the side of the receiver. So how you read, your ability to read the message, your skill to listen. So they are all receiver oriented barriers that may affect the communication. Or channel oriented barriers, the channel you use for communication. How the technical apparatus, your mic or your video, your audio, and how good it is. So how the technical issues. So all these things have a great impact on the communication. So these are all called barriers. These are the major groups of barriers. What is mass media? Mass media is a form of communication which has a very large reach. So the number of people involved in this communication is huge, and it comprises of different types of media. It may be in the written form, verbal or non-verbal. When it is in the written form, it includes books, newspapers, magazines, etc. And if it involves audio or video content, then it is examples are radio, TV, billboards, posters, movies, internet. All these things come under mass media. And what is the society? And how does this mass media affect the society? By informing the society, by giving information to the society, by educating the society, and by entertaining the society. Mass media can be classified in many ways. One way is with reference to time. We classify mass media into traditional mass media and new mass media. The old ones are called traditional and the new one is called as new mass media. And examples for traditional mass media are the old street plays, street theaters, legends, folk tales, kathas, puppet shows, paintings, all these are called traditional mass media. And new mass media are print media, radio, TV, internet, and social media like WhatsApp, Twitter, Facebook, etc. And both the type of mass media, they cater to a very large number of people. And you can classify mass media into print versus electronic mass media. The invention of printing press revolutionized the world of media. And radio, photos, videos, movies, wireless communication, social media are all related to the electronic mass media. Here are some of the theories of mass media. There are three popular theories. One is limited effect theory, another one is class dominated theory, and culturalist theory. What are they? We will see. The limited effect theory says that media has lesser influence on the choices and the decisions made by the public. They say that the public don't have any choice. But now we know that this is a outdated theory, failure. And this theory was proposed much earlier before the massive reach of the mass media. Now we know there is a huge reach of the mass media and it influences a large. And the class dominated theory says that the media is dominated by the elite class. Those, the so-called elite class, the higher class, upper class people, they manipulate the choice and the selection of the public by means of their manipulation and their advertisement. You know better about this. Better not discuss this. And the culturalist theory says that the elite group may show their choices in the media, but it is the audience who decide, it is the audience who choose what to buy and what to watch according to their culture, according to their taste, according to their interest. So these are all the theory, or we may say even principles related to mass media. These are all the various skills that are necessary for effective communication to take place. What are they? So you have to have keen interest on part of the listener. You have to show keen interest in what you are going to receive. Otherwise, you will miss the point. And also you should have confidence of communication and understanding. So confidence plays a great role. If you don't have confidence, you cannot speak properly and you may misspell the words or you may mispronounce the words and you may not convey what you really wanted to convey. And also in receiver, the receiver also should have certain level of confidence in receiving the message, in understanding the language. And paraphrasing, you should be able to give the important message in a very understandable and brief way. And feedback is also important. Once the receiver receives the message, he has to send feedback to the sender that he has received the message, he has decoded it properly. Only then the communication can continue. Otherwise, it stops there. And open-mindedness. So it's very important that you receive the information, any kind of information for that matter, maybe oral or that is verbal or written communication. So you have to have your open mind to receive it. If you are closed, I don't like this, or I don't believe in this, then you will miss the story. And the clarity plays a very great role in communication. Got to be clear in your the content matter and the choice of the medium and in your body language and your tone, everything there has got to be clarity. And right medium. So maybe the language you are choosing to communicate or the channel, the instrument, the technology you're using for your communication, everything should be appropriate and right. And respect, whether it is the sender or the receiver, they have to have mutual respect for each other. Otherwise, the sender will be biased in sending the message. He will not be able to communicate properly. He does not respect the receiver of the message. In the same way, the receiver, if he doesn't have any respect for the sender, he will not receive the information in the correct sense. So you have to have mutual respect on both the sides. And empathy. Empathy, putting yourself on the shoes of the other party. So you have to understand the position of the receiver, what time they are. See, when you are calling somebody at the middle of the night, and the other party, the receiver, may be sleeping. So you should be showing some empathy that you should not disturb him, or if at all, if it is an urgent message, you convey it in a very quick way, not beating around the bush, taking his time. So in every aspect, you have to show some empathy, and proper attitude is important. I have told you in the previous slides what is attitude. And proper gestures and body language plays a very great role. Nowadays there are courses how to communicate effectively and how to use your body language. So how you walk in, how you sit, how you smile, how you keep your hands in an interview, everything matters. And appropriate questions. So you should be able to put appropriate questions, appropriate places. So that is the feedback for the sender, so that the communication can go on. Otherwise, the communication will stop abruptly. So these are some of the essential skills that one should have for effective communication. This is a list of some of the terms which are often used in communication. The first being synchronous and asynchronous communication. What is synchronous communication? It means that the information is streamed in real time, that you are streaming, you are talking, and it is delivered to the receiver instantaneously, the same moment. Both sending and receiving are happening simultaneously. Example is video conferences and chat room discussion. All these are synchronous mode. And asynchronous mode, here the message is streamed and it reaches the receiver with a slight delay. The delay may be great or it may be slight. Example is your email, letters, forums, etc. It takes time for the message to reach the um, receiver. So that is asynchronous. So both synchronous and asynchronous refers to the time. One is real time and another one is with a delay. And the next is the terms used are broadcasting and narrowcasting. What is the difference? Broadcasting caters to a large number of people, the public, like the radio programs. That is broadcasting. It reaches all the audience. But narrowcasting only for the subscribers. They can only view or listen to the programs, your DTH services on the TV Only those who are subscribed to the DTH can watch that program. That is narrowcasting. And semiotics. It refers to the signs, the symbols or signs you are using while communicating. Usually, in the news for the hearing impaired, they show signs, So all this refers to semiotics, the sign language, how it is interpreted in many languages. And proxemics. Proxemics means the distance between the sender and the receiver. If we say there is personal space, intimate space, if it is intimate communication between one to one, then it is slightly, 1.5 feet. That's all. And if it is personal space between sender and the receiver, it means 4 to 10 feet. And public space is more than 10 feet because many people are involved in that communication. So this distance between the communicating persons, like their eye contact, touch, gestures, all this help in identifying the relationship between the two persons. Suppose two persons are talking very close, in very low voice, sitting very next to each other, that means they are very intimate. So that is all this study about the distance is proxemics. And surveillance refers to collecting the information, monitoring and processing it, interpreting and retaining the information, storing the information. This is all called surveillance. Some data to be conveyed, to be communicated. And kinesics, it refers to the non-verbal communication, your body movement, the gestures, eye contact. So, the study of all this non-verbal communication is kinesics. Always kinesthetic means the movement. And halo effect. What is halo effect? This is when we see, this is the influence, how we are influenced by the personal appearance of the people. Sometimes, we say that people who are well dressed, who are good looking, we come to the conclusion that they are intelligent or they are honest. So, but actually this is halo effect. Need not be true. And fair-skinned people, they don't lie, they are honest. So all this, they have halo effect, which may not be true. And noise. We have discussed this term earlier. Noise means some unnecessary data or unnecessary information in the message. Something not needed. And it spoils the communication. It distracts the communication. And feedback is a very important component of the communication process. It makes the communication process two-way. So it conveys to the sender whether the receiver has inferred the right meaning from the message. So if the sender receives positive feedback, the communication will continue in the same way. But if he receives negative feedback, that means the receiver has not understood it properly. So that means the sender has to modify maybe his language or his medium or the volume or his whatever it may be. So the feedback keeps the communication going. And the feedback may be immediate, as in the case of oral communication. You see, as when you speak, the facial expression, like a teacher in a classroom. She can immediately tell whether the students have understood what she's explaining. She will immediately stop talking and call out the boy or the girl and ask some questions, So the feedback is immediate in the case of oral communication, but it may be delayed in the case of written communication. So these are some of the common terminology you should be familiar with. Okay, friends, we have come to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this video, which is a continuation of the last video. And I wish you all the best for your NET or SET exam. And listen to watch the video, all the videos. I have made some 50s videos both in Tamil and in English under the topic paper 1 of UGC NET. Go through them one by one, and you can communicate to me by email if you have any doubt. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so and click the bell icon for further notification. Until then, bye bye. Good luck.